So thank you very much for coming here today and inviting me along to talk about my poster with you guys. I'm really excited, and it's really cool to be talking to such a diverse audience. Don't boom me off yet, but I'm actually doing my PhD in civil engineering and microbiology. So yeah, bear with me because my PhD is primarily in engineering, if I'm being honest. Okay, so chemical-free water is what my work is all about. I'm doing my PhD with the University of Sheffield, and I'm doing it in collaboration with the water company Anglian Water, who supply water and sewage services to the east of the UK. So I'm going to take you through my poster. I'm going to go down the left-hand side first, scroll all the way back up, and then go down the right-hand side with you. So for a start, why am I doing this research? What is this chemical-free water? What am I talking about? So the UK uses lots of chemicals to treat and distribute our drinking water. We've been doing this for many, many years, and it really, really works. So we have really strict regulations in the UK, but we're compliant with about 99.95% of them at the customer tap and at the water treatment works. The thing is, the use of these chemicals can have unintended consequences. And I think we're at this stage now in our water that we're kind of ready to think about the sustainability of our practices. How can we make it even better for future generations? It's no longer sort of firefighting anymore. It's more about looking to the future and how things can be even better. So some examples of these chemicals and the problems they can have. So one example is chlorine. So chlorine is sort of used twice as part of the treatment process. So it's used once to treat the water. So for instance, you've got river water and you want to disinfect it. And then it's used again before water goes into the pipe networks. So one of the problems with chlorine, and there was a really good example of this in South Carolina a few years ago. Chlorine was being transported by rail, and the train actually derailed. And for sort of a 2 mile radius all along where the train derailed, and this chlorine gas leak happened, everything died. All plant life, all insects, everything within that 2 mile radius of that chlorine gas leak died. So this is of concern for these people who are working on these sites in the UK, who are storing up to 30 days worth, that's tons and tons of this chlorine, which is harmful to them. So it's definitely okay at the customer tap level, you're not going to have a chlorine gas leak there, but at the water treatment works level, it's something that could be really harmful for people. And another example of a chemical with an unintended consequence, shall we say, is phosphate. So when I'm saying phosphate, I'm actually meaning orthophosphoric acid. So we dose this at water treatment works to protect against lead pipes in the pipe networks. So around 40% of households in the UK actually have lead somewhere as part of their pipes or with their fittings and fixtures. So your taps, your solder might be lead, which is a big problem because lead toxicity is there, and it's a problem. Particularly lead is well studied for behavioural problems in children, reduced IQ, those kinds of things, but it actually accumulates in your body during the course of your lifetime. So it can cause death in high enough doses, it can cause central nervous system failure, it can cause a lot of problems. So we dose this phosphate to stop that happening. It sort of coats the inside of these lead pipes so the lead can't sort of fall off, precipitate, come into the water, and then come into your customer tap. But the problem with this is phosphate, some researchers say, is going to be running out in the next 50 to 100 years. So in 50 years time, we've not really got anything at the moment. We've not got rid of our lead. We're just using phosphate as a chemical in the meantime to just help us cope. So, you know, if we didn't have that phosphate there, that buffer, maybe we would have removed all of our lead by now. Regulations changed in the 1970s regarding lead and water usage. So that's just one of the problems with using some of these chemicals today. So what chemicals are we using to treat water? So I want you to get a piece of paper and write this down, or put it in the chat if you're feeling particularly brave. I want you to have a think about how long do you think it takes for water to get from a water treatment works to your customer tap, to your tap in your kitchen. So yeah, write it down, put it in the chat if you're feeling brave. You know, give me your best guess. Are we talking minutes? Are we talking hours? Are we talking days? Weeks? Just think about what you think the answer to that is for that transportation of the water. Remember, like, visualize the amount of pipes that we'd have to go on this journey as you're thinking this through. Okay, I am going to give you the answer now, so quickly write it down or you'll be cheating. Okay, so the answer actually is for the UK. You're looking at an average of 3 days. So we're definitely talking days here. But the extremes of the network, it can actually in this country be up to 10 days. So just in the east where I live, we've actually got enough drinking water pipes to go to the moon from the Earth and then back again. That is a lot of pipes in our ground. So when I say that 40% of households contain lead pipes, that's why. So there's a lot of this pipe. Some of it is super old, some of it's like Victorian era pipe. So when I was doing this research and I was looking into these chemicals that we're dosing, I decided to really focus down on the chemicals that we're dosing specifically to try and protect the water on this massive long journey in the pipes. So this isn't the chemicals that are used at the water treatment works, but those ones that are dosed specifically to protect it from the water treatment works to the tap, because like I said, it's a really, really long journey. So particularly I was focusing on chlorine and phosphate that I was just discussing a second ago. So how did I actually investigate this? So I built these fake pipe networks and fake customer taps. So if you imagine it, a shipping container, you would walk into this shipping container, 20-foot standard shipping container. On the left-hand side wall, there would be a wall of pipe. And on the right-hand side wall, there would be a wall of pipe. All of the pipes on the left had these chemicals in, had chlorine in, had phosphate in. All those chemicals on the right didn't have these chemicals in. So they were completely separate pipe loops. And don't worry, I wasn't trying to give anyone this water to drink. This was all running to waste. But yeah, 2 separate independent pipe loops that had these different chemicals in. So I was able to compare these two. And I actually had 2 of these shipping containers. One of them was on a surface water site. So that means that this is sort of like river water or like a reservoir. That's where the water's coming from for that water treatment works. And then I had another shipping container on a site that was groundwater in source. So that means it's like a borehole, it's like a well in source. It's being pumped up from deep, deep within the ground. So yeah, I had 4 of these separate pipe systems, 4 loops of pipe altogether, but 2 shipping containers. And the reason why I made my own pipe was because I was interested in what was happening with the water quality of the water running through the pipes themselves. But I was actually really interested as well as what was growing on the pipe walls. So for that, I had to have my own pipes. So I designed these pipes, and they had removable pipe sections that I called coupons. So really, really high level technique here. You take the bit of pipe wall out with trying not to get too much water leaving the rigs at the same time, because I was aiming for a residency time of 3 days. So you take this section of pipe out, then you get this very high-tech bit of kit called a toothbrush. You use the toothbrush to scrape the material off the coupon, and then you would analyze that to see what was growing on the pipe wall as well as what was going inside it. So I'm going to wish you back up to the top now. So that's how the trial progressed. These were based completely on the water treatment works. And I was essentially looking at who is there. So I was using plate counts, mostly for E. coli. I was looking at how much is there. So I was looking at using a machine called flow cytometer, which is basically using lasers to count individual numbers of cells. So I was looking at the total cell count and the intact cell count, both on the water running through the rig and the biofilm growing on the surface of the rig as well. And then most of the analysis that I was doing was sort of what has the potential to be there, looking at lots of different nutrients and wider parameters, the water chemistry, that kind of thing. But yeah, I was mostly interested in phosphate, different types of phosphate, and some of the different nutrients that are present there. So what were the key findings of my work? Well, it really surprised me, actually. So comparing these 4 different experimental conditions, shall we say, I was really expecting there to be a massive deterioration in water quality when we stopped dosing these chemicals. But actually, of the 4 rigs, the biggest difference there wasn't if chemicals were or were not used. The biggest difference was actually based on whether the site was fed by surface water or if it was fed by groundwater. So even when we got rid of the chemicals at these sites, there wasn't all that much difference, particularly at the groundwater site. The groundwater site was really good quality going into these pipe systems. So after 3 days circulating within them, even without the chemicals, it was really good. same going in, same going out, I guess. And the chemicals didn't really do that much difference. So that really surprised me. And it really showed me that this choice of source water type was most important when deciding about the future of your water going forwards. So that was really what I found, and it did surprise me. I did expect that big deterioration when the chemicals were not used, but it's also of concern for the future, really, because this research shows me that chemical-free water is possible today because the water quality didn't deteriorate when we stopped dosing the chemicals. But in future, things like climate change, it's really going to influence that source water. So it could be that this research is possible today, but in 50 years' time, when source waters change because of climate change, it might not be possible at all. But right now, assuming that doesn't happen, my research indicates that, yeah, we can do this, and there's not going to be all that much difference if we do. So that's my research, and thank you very much for listening to me today and seeing my presentation. Feel free to follow me on Twitter and get in touch. Please, I'll take any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Our next